The transport shuttle bumped against the docking clamps with a metallic clang that made Alex Reed wince. Through the small window, he could see the surface of Valdris Prime spreading out below them like a field of broken glass. Everything on this world seemed to be made of crystal. The buildings, the roads, even the trees had a translucent quality that caught the light of their blue sun and scattered it in rainbow patterns. "First time seeing a crystal world?" asked Dr. Sarah Kim, the team's cultural specialist. She was checking her translation device for the third time since they'd entered the system. "First time seeing anything like this," Alex replied. He was supposed to be the leader of this diplomatic mission, but honestly, he felt more like a tourist. The Galactic Council had insisted that humans needed to start participating in these cultural exchanges, and somehow his name had come up. Probably because he was one of the few humans who didn't get motion sick during space travel. The airlock hissed open, and they were greeted by three beings that looked like walking gemstones. Their leader stood nearly 8 feet tall, with a body that seemed carved from purple amethyst. Light moved through his form in slow waves, and when he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Welcome, beings of Earth," the crystal entity said. "I am High Keeper Orun. We have waited many cycles to meet your species." Alex stepped forward and offered his hand, then remembered that crystal beings probably didn't shake hands. He settled for a polite nod instead. "Thank you for having us. We're honored to be here." The High Keeper's form brightened, which Alex guessed was the equivalent of a smile. "Come. We will show you the wonders of our world, and perhaps you will understand why we guard what we guard." They followed Orun through corridors that seemed to grow from the living rock itself. Everything curved and flowed in organic shapes, but the crystal walls were so clear that Alex felt like he was walking through frozen water. Other keepers moved past them, some tall and slender like Orun, others short and wide, all glowing with inner light. "Your people are beautiful," Dr. Kim said, her voice full of genuine wonder. "We are old," Orun replied. "We have been the guardians of this place for 10,000 of your years. Before your species learned to make fire, we were already ancient." They entered a vast chamber that took Alex's breath away. The ceiling stretched up so high it disappeared in misty blue light. Carved into the walls were thousands of symbols and pictures, telling stories in a language that predated most of galactic civilization. But what drew everyone's attention was the platform in the center of the room. On a raised dais of white crystal sat a sword. Even from across the chamber, Alex could see that this wasn't just any weapon. The blade was black as space itself, but it seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. The handle was wrapped in some kind of metal that shifted between silver and gold depending on the angle. The whole thing radiated power in a way that made the hair on Alex's arm stand up. "Behold, World Render," Orun said, his voice dropping to a whisper of reverence. "The blade that was forged in the heart of a dying star. The weapon that could cut through the fabric of reality itself." Dr. Kim was already pulling out her recorder and taking notes. "The craftsmanship is incredible. What civilization created it?" "No civilization," Orun replied. "It was made by the universe itself, in the moment when a massive star collapsed into nothing. Our ancestors found it drifting in space, and we have guarded it ever since." Alex walked closer to get a better look. The sword was big, probably 6 feet long from tip to pommel. The blade was wide enough that he could have used it as a paddle for a canoe. "It's impressive," he said. "Heavy looking." Orun's crystal form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Heavy is not the word, human Alex. The blade weighs as much as your transport shuttle. 2,000 of your pounds. No being in the history of the galaxy has been able to lift it from its resting place." "Really?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "No one at all?" "Many have tried," Orun explained, gesturing to screens that flickered to life around the chamber. They showed images of various alien species, huge, muscled creatures straining against the sword's handle, mechanical beings with hydraulic limbs sparking with effort, even groups of warriors trying to lift it together. All failed. The strongest warriors of the Brutani Empire, the enhanced soldiers of the Cyber Collective, masters of mental power who can move mountains with thought alone, all have attempted the trial, all have failed. Dr. Kim looked fascinated. "Is there some kind of religious significance to the attempts?" "There is an old prophecy," Orun said. "It speaks of one who will come from beyond the rim of known space, one whose strength will surpass all understanding. This chosen one will lift the blade as easily as a child lifts a toy, and in doing so will herald a new age for the galaxy." Alex nodded politely, though privately he thought prophecies were usually just wishful thinking. Sounds impressive. Do you get a lot of visitors who want to try? Oh yes, Orun replied. Representatives from across the galaxy come here to test themselves against the impossible. It has become something of a pilgrimage. Today, in fact, we have several distinguished guests who wish to attempt the trial. As if summoned by his words, other beings began to enter the chamber. Alex recognized some of the species from his briefing materials. There were 3 Brutani warriors, each standing over 7 feet tall and looking like they could bench press a small building. Behind them came a delegation of mechanoids, their bodies gleaming with enhanced cybernetic parts. A group of scions floated nearby, their large heads pulsing with psychic energy. Ah, Orin said with obvious pleasure. Perfect timing. Human visitors, you will have the honor of witnessing the traditional trial. Perhaps you will understand why the blade is considered the ultimate test of worthiness. Alex found himself a spot to stand where he could see clearly. He was curious to see just how heavy this sword really was. 2,000 pounds seemed like a lot, but he'd seen some pretty impressive feats of strength back on Earth. Still, if aliens considered it impossible, it probably was for them. The trial was about to begin, and Alex had no idea that he was about to accidentally change the course of galactic history. The first Brutani warrior stepped forward with the confidence of someone who had never met a weight he couldn't lift. His name was Gorith, and his massive frame cast a shadow across half the platform. Muscles bulged beneath his gray skin like mountains under a thin blanket. Alex estimated the alien stood close to 8 feet tall and probably weighed as much as a small car. I claim the right of trial, Gorith announced in a voice that rumbled through the crystal chamber like distant thunder. Highkeeper Orin bowed his crystalline head. The trial is yours to attempt, Warrior Gorith. May the ancestors guide your strength. Alex watched with genuine interest as the Brutani approached World Render. The warrior circled the blade once, studying it from every angle like a weightlifter examining a new barbell. Finally, Gorith grasped the handle with both massive hands and set his stance. The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the crystal walls. Gorith's muscles tensed, then bulged, then strained until Alex thought they might actually tear. The warrior's face turned from gray to deep purple with effort. Veins stood out on his forehead like thick cables. His feet dug grooves into the crystal platform. Nothing happened. The sword didn't budge even a fraction of an inch. After 30 seconds of maximum effort, Gorith released the handle and staggered backward, breathing hard. Impossible, he gasped. It is as if the blade is part of the planet itself. The second Brutani tried next, then the third. Each attempt was the same. Maximum effort, zero movement. By the time the last warrior gave up, Alex was starting to understand why these aliens considered the sword truly impossible to lift. The mechanoids stepped forward next. Their leader, a being called Unit 47, had arms that were clearly designed for heavy lifting. His cybernetic limbs whirred and clicked as he approached the sword. Beginning lift attempt, Unit 47 announced in a voice like grinding gears. Hydraulic pressure at maximum. Servo motors engaged. The mechanical being's arms clamped onto the sword handle with precision. Alex could hear the whine of electric motors pushing against their limits. Sparks began to fly from Unit 47's shoulder joints as his internal systems overloaded. Warning lights flashed across his chest panel. System overload imminent, he reported in a strained voice. Cannot maintain pressure. Unit 47 released the sword and stepped back, smoke rising from his arm joints. Blade exceeds design parameters. Lift impossible with current configuration. The other mechanoids didn't even try after seeing their leader's failure. Finally, the scions approached. These beings looked fragile compared to the physical powerhouses that had gone before them. They stood barely 5 feet tall with large heads and thin limbs. But Alex knew from his briefing that they could move objects with their minds that would take a crane to lift normally. The lead scion, who called herself Mindsinger Velith, didn't even touch the sword. Instead, she stood before it with her eyes closed, her oversized head glowing with soft blue light. The air around the blade began to shimmer like heat waves. I can sense its mass, she said in a voice like whispered music, so dense, so heavy. It pulls at the fabric of space itself. The glow around her head intensified. The other scions joined their power to hers, and now the entire chamber thrummed with psychic energy. Alex felt a pressure in his head like the beginning of a headache. For a moment, it looked like the sword might actually move. It trembled slightly on its resting place, and Alex heard several gasps from the assembled aliens. But then Velith cried out and stumbled backward, the glow fading from her head. "Forgive me," she said, her voice weak. "The blade resists mental contact. It is as if it has a will of its own, and that will chooses to remain where it lies." High Keeper Orin moved to the center of the platform, his crystal form pulsing with what Alex now recognized as satisfaction, and so it has been for countless generations. "The blade chooses its own master, and until that day comes, it shall remain here waiting." Dr. Kim was scribbling notes furiously. "This is fascinating," she whispered to Alex. "The cultural significance alone must be enormous. A test that unites all species in common failure." Alex nodded absently. He was studying the sword with professional interest now. 2,000 pounds was definitely heavy, but it wasn't impossible heavy. He'd seen strongman competitions where humans lifted more than that. Eddie Hall had deadlifted over 1,000 pounds, and that was just one man with regular human biology. "If you got the right leverage, the right grip, the right technique," Human Alex, High Keeper Orin called out, interrupting his thoughts. "Would you care to attempt the trial? Your species is new to us, and we would be honored to witness human strength." Alex looked up, startled. Every eye in the chamber was on him now. Crystal beings, defeated warriors, curious scientists. He felt his cheeks warm with embarrassment. "Oh, that's very kind," he said, "but I think I'll pass. I'm not really into the whole ceremonial thing, you know? Plus, if all these strong folks couldn't do it, I definitely can't." The assembled aliens murmured among themselves, and Alex caught fragments of translation, words like wisdom and humility, and knows his limits. Orin's crystal form brightened with what seemed like approval. "A wise response," the High Keeper said. "Many beings let pride overcome sense. Your species shows maturity in recognizing the impossible." Alex smiled and nodded, though privately he disagreed. The word impossible always bothered him. Usually it just meant nobody's figured out the right way yet. But this wasn't his world, and it wasn't his ceremony. If these beings wanted to believe the sword was impossible to lift, that was their business. Dr. Kim touched his arm approvingly. "Good call," she whispered. "Better to show respect for their traditions than to embarrass ourselves trying." As the formal ceremony concluded, and the various delegations began to file out of the chamber, Alex took one more look at World Render. It really was a beautiful piece of craftsmanship. He found himself wondering about the metallurgy involved, the forging techniques that could create something so perfectly balanced despite its enormous weight. If he ever got a chance to examine it more closely, he thought he'd love to understand how it was made, but that seemed unlikely to happen during a diplomatic visit. He had no idea the chance would come much sooner than he expected. The alarm started as a low humming that gradually built into a warbling wail that echoed through the crystal corridors. Alex had been following the group toward what Orun called the Hall of Ancestors when the sound began, and every keeper in sight immediately stopped what they were doing. "Environmental fluctuation detected," Orin announced, his crystal form flickering between purple and blue. "Nothing dangerous, honored guests, but protocol requires we verify all atmospheric systems. Please remain where you are while we conduct our inspection." Dr. Kim looked concerned. "Should we return to our shuttle?" "Not necessary," Orun assured her. "This happens perhaps once every few cycles. A minor adjustment to the humidity processors, nothing more. We will resume our tour shortly." The group settled down to wait in a small antechamber filled with floating crystal sculptures. Alex watched the art pieces drift slowly through the air, powered by some technology he didn't understand. After about 10 minutes of polite conversation about crystal growing techniques, he started to get restless. "I'm going to find a bathroom," he announced, standing up from the bench where he'd been sitting. "Down that corridor," Orin pointed with one translucent arm. "Follow the blue lights. But please do not wander far, Human Alex. These halls can be confusing to those unfamiliar with crystal architecture." Alex nodded and headed down the indicated passage. The blue lights were easy enough to follow, pulsing softly in sequence along the walls like a gentle runway. But after a few minutes of walking, he realized he must have taken a wrong turn somewhere. The lights here were white instead of blue, and the corridor was wider than the others he'd seen. He was about to turn back when he noticed an opening to his left that seemed familiar. Stepping through it, he found himself in the great chamber where they'd witnessed the sword trials earlier. "Huh," he said to himself. "Took the scenic route, I guess." The chamber was empty now, lit only by the soft glow that seemed to come from the crystal walls themselves. Without the crowd of aliens and the formal ceremony, the space felt different, more peaceful. The sword sat on its platform in the center of the room, looking somehow smaller without an audience to impress. Alex walked closer, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. Now that he had time to really look at it, he could appreciate the craftsmanship even more. The blade wasn't just black, it seemed to contain depths like looking into deep space. The metal of the handle had a pattern worked into it that looked almost like flowing water. Beautiful work, he murmured, reaching the edge of the platform. Holographic displays flickered to life around him as he approached, apparently triggered by proximity sensors. They showed the history of the blade in moving pictures, its discovery floating in space, the construction of this temple around it, and hundreds of failed attempts to lift it over the centuries. Alex watched with interest as warrior after warrior strained against the sword's weight. The footage went back generations, showing species he didn't recognize and some he did. Every attempt ended the same way, exhaustion and failure. Probably just needs better leverage, Alex said to the empty chamber, thinking out loud. Most people try to deadlift it straight up, but with something that heavy, you'd want to get your whole body into it. Maybe slide one hand down toward the guard for better grip distribution. He walked around the platform, examining the sword from different angles. The way it was positioned, there was plenty of room to get a good stance. The platform was wide enough to plant your feet properly. Really, the setup wasn't that bad for a heavy lift. I wonder what the balance point is, Alex mused. If it's tip heavy, that would make it harder. But if the weight is distributed evenly or even handle heavy? Without really thinking about it, he stepped up onto the platform. The crystal felt solid under his feet, with enough texture to provide good grip. He positioned himself next to the sword and bent down to examine the handle more closely. The metal felt warm under his fingers as he traced the flowing pattern. The craftsmanship really was incredible. Whoever had made this knew their business. Alex had done some metalworking as a hobby back on Earth, and he could appreciate the skill involved. The alloy composition must be fascinating, he said to himself. To get something this dense but still workable, you'd need some serious metallurgy. I wonder if it's some kind of neutron star material. The translation text floating near the displays caught his attention. It described the blade's impossible weight that defies the strength of mortals, and the burden that no living being can bear. Alex chuckled as he read it. Marketing copy, he said. Every culture loves to oversell their artifacts. Impossible weight, it's just 2,000 pounds. Heavy, sure, but hardly impossible. He straightened up and looked at the sword handle. Really, the grip looked pretty comfortable. The leather or whatever it was had been worn smooth by all those hands trying to lift it over the centuries. It would probably fit his palm nicely. I bet the balance isn't even that bad, Alex said, reaching out almost without thinking. Let me just... His hand closed around the handle and he lifted. The sword came up smoothly, easily, as if it weighed no more than a baseball bat. Alex raised it to eye level and tested the balance, giving it a gentle experimental swing. Huh, he said, genuinely surprised. Actually feels pretty normal. Good balance, comfortable grip. The weight distribution is really well done. He held the blade out horizontally and sighted down its edge, checking for straightness. The craftsmanship was even better than he'd thought. Despite being incredibly heavy, it was perfectly balanced and beautifully made. Somebody knew what they were doing when they forged this, Alex said admiringly, though I'm not sure why everyone thinks it's so hard to lift. Maybe the gravity here is different from Earth standard? He was examining the intricate pattern etched into the blade when alarms began screaming throughout the chamber. Not the gentle warbling from the environmental systems, but harsh, urgent claxons that made his ears ring. Red lights flashed from every surface, and the holographic displays around him exploded into activity. Oh, Alex said, looking around at the chaos. That's probably not good. He was still holding the sword casually in one hand when the first crystal guards burst into the chamber, their forms blazing with alarm and disbelief. Right behind them came Highkeeper Orun, moving faster than Alex had thought possible for a being made of living rock. Impossible! Orun's voice rang through the chamber like a bell struck by lightning. The blade! IT moves. Alex looked down at the sword in his hand, then back at the gathering crowd of crystal beings. More aliens were pouring into the chamber. The Brutani warriors who had failed earlier, the mechanoids with their smoking arms, the scions who looked like they'd seen a ghost. Oh, Alex said again, beginning to understand why the alarms were going off. Are you guys okay with me holding this? Because I can put it back if you want. The chamber fell silent except for the continued wailing of alarms. Every eye was fixed on Alex and the impossible sight of a being casually holding a sword that had defeated the strongest warriors in the galaxy. Alex shifted the sword to his other hand, testing the grip. I mean, it's a really nice piece of work, but I was just looking. I wasn't trying to steal it or anything. Highkeeper Orin dropped to what passed for knees on his crystalline frame, with a sound like a wind chime falling downstairs. The massive purple being pressed his face to the crystal floor and began speaking in rapid, musical tones that Alex's translator couldn't keep up with. Alex said, still holding the sword and now feeling very awkward about the whole situation. Should I put this down? You're kind of freaking me out here. The other keepers had also prostrated themselves, their crystal forms creating a rainbow of light across the chamber floor. The Brutani warriors stood frozen like statues, their massive jaws hanging open. Even the mechanoids seemed to have temporarily shut down, their optical sensors fixed on Alex in what he could only assume was machine shock. Dr. Kim pushed through the crowd of stunned aliens, her face pale with disbelief. Alex, what did you do? I just picked it up, Alex replied, shifting the sword again. He was getting tired of holding it extended and brought it closer to his body to rest against his shoulder. The movement caused several aliens to gasp. I was looking at the craftsmanship and wanted to check the balance. Is that bad? Nobody said I couldn't touch it. Nobody said you couldn't touch it because nobody thought it was possible, Dr. Kim said faintly. Alex, that thing weighs 2,000 pounds. Alex looked down at the sword, then back at her. Really, are you sure? Because it feels pretty normal to me. Maybe the gravity here is lighter than Earth standard. Before anyone could answer, Orun raised his head from the floor, his crystal form blazing with light so bright it hurt to look at directly. When he spoke, his voice carried a reverence that made Alex uncomfortable. The prophecy, Orun whispered. The chosen one who would come from beyond the rim of known space. The one whose strength would surpass all understanding. His voice grew stronger, more certain. You are he, the prophesied warrior who will herald the new age. Whoa, hold on, Alex said, taking a step backward. I'm not anybody special. I'm just a guy from Colorado who happened to get picked for this diplomatic thing because I don't get space sick. There's no prophecy stuff going on here. But Orun wasn't listening. He was on his feet now, his arms raised toward the crystal ceiling. Behold, the impossible has occurred. The blade of the ancestors has chosen its master. Word was spreading fast. Alex could see more beings pouring into the chamber. Keepers, guards, and probably half the alien delegations that had witnessed the failed trials earlier. They all wore the same expression of shock and disbelief. Gorith, the massive Brutani warrior who had tried first, approached slowly with his head bowed. Forgive me, Great One, he rumbled. I did not recognize your power when first we met. I don't have any power, Alex protested. Look, this is obviously some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe your sensors are wrong about the weight, or maybe there's some kind of magnetic field that was holding it down before, or... He trailed off as he noticed the holographic displays around the chamber. They were showing his vital signs in real time. Heart rate, muscle tension, energy output. According to the readings, he was completely relaxed. No strain, no effort, no sign that he was supporting any significant weight at all. That can't be right, Alex muttered, looking at the numbers. These things must be calibrated for your species, not humans. Mind Singer Veleth approached with her large head glowing softly. May I? She asked, gesturing toward the sword. Alex shrugged. Sure, I guess. The Scion's mental probe touched the sword, and she immediately staggered backward with a cry of amazement. The blade. It recognizes him. It knows him as its true master. The resonance is unlike anything I have ever felt. Resonance? Alex asked, but Veleth wasn't finished. More than that? She continued, her voice filled with wonder. I can sense his strength now, his potential. It is vast beyond measure. What we witness today is but the smallest fraction of his true power. Alex was getting frustrated now. Look, I appreciate the mystical stuff really, but can we maybe stick to facts here? I'm a normal human being. I work in logistics for a shipping company back on Earth. The heaviest thing I usually lift is a box of printer paper. Human Alex, Orun said, his crystal form pulsing with excitement. What is the greatest weight your people can lift? Alex thought about it. Well, the world record deadlift is around 100 pounds, I think. But that's just one guy, and he trained his whole life for it. In competition with the right gear and technique. He paused. Though I guess some strongmen have lifted heavier in training. And that's just individual records. If you're talking about machinery. The chamber erupted in excited chatter as the translation systems conveyed his words. Alex caught fragments. 1,100 pounds and individual achievement and without training. Wait, Alex said, raising his free hand. I think you're misunderstanding something here. I can't lift 100 pounds. That's the human record, set by someone way stronger than me. But his protest only seemed to make things worse. The aliens were looking at him with even more awe, apparently interpreting his modesty as evidence of even greater power. Unit 47, the mechanoid leader, approached with his damaged arms sparking. Human being Alex, his mechanical voice said. If your species' strongest can lift 100 of your pounds, and you lift 2,000 with no apparent effort, what does this indicate about your personal strength? Alex opened his mouth to explain, then closed it again. When put that way, it did sound kind of weird. He looked down at the sword in his hand. This supposedly impossible, legendary weapon that had defeated the greatest warriors in the galaxy. In his grip, it felt like a well-made tool, nothing more. Maybe, he said slowly, maybe there's something different about the way it works for humans, like maybe it's keyed to human biosignatures or something. The blade responds to worthiness, not genetics, Orun said firmly. For 10,000 years, beings of every species have attempted the trial. All have failed. Only you have succeeded. Dr. Kim was staring at Alex like she'd never seen him before. Alex, how do you feel right now? Physically, I mean. Any strain, any fatigue? Alex considered the question seriously. No, I feel fine. Like I said, it feels pretty normal. Maybe a little heavier than a baseball bat, but not much. The crowd of aliens murmured among themselves in dozens of languages. Alex caught words like impossible and divine and chosen one repeated over and over. Okay, Alex said. Decision made. I'm going to put this back now and we can all pretend this didn't happen. No harm, no foul. He moved toward the platform where the sword had rested, but Orun's voice stopped him. Wait, the High Keeper called out. If you are truly the chosen one, if the blade has accepted you as its master, then it will not allow itself to be returned to its resting place. The prophecy speaks of this. Once lifted by the worthy, it shall never again know rest until its purpose is fulfilled. Alex paused. What purpose? To lead the galaxy into a new age, Orun said solemnly. To unite the species under the banner of true strength. To be the hand that guides civilization toward its destiny. Alex looked around the chamber at all the expectant alien faces. That sounds like a lot of responsibility for a logistics coordinator. Despite his protests, he had to admit something strange was definitely happening here. And like it or not, he was apparently at the center of it. News traveled fast in the galactic community. Within 6 hours of Alex accidentally lifting World Render, emergency sessions were being called in government chambers across 3 star systems. Within 12 hours, the first news crews were arriving at Valdris Prime. Within 24 hours, Alex found himself sitting in the Crystal Temple's main conference room, facing representatives from 17 different species. This is getting out of hand, Alex said to Dr. Kim in a quiet moment between interviews. He'd finally been allowed to set the sword down, though it now rested against the wall next to his chair rather than returning to its pedestal. They're treating me like some kind of religious figure. Can you blame them? Dr. Kim replied, consulting her tablet. I've been reading the historical records. That sword has been tested by over 10,000 beings across recorded history. Warriors, athletes, machines, psychics. Nobody has ever even made it wobble. And you picked it up like it was a paperweight. The door chimed and High Keeper Orun entered with yet another delegation. This group wore the elaborate robes of the Galactic Religious Council. Their leader, a tall, ethereal being with silver skin and 4 arms. Human Alex. The silver being said, his voice carrying multiple harmonics. I am High Prelate Kanos of the Unified Faith. We have come to witness the miracle ourselves, and to discuss what it means for the spiritual future of the galaxy. Alex sighed and gestured to the chairs around the conference table. Please sit down. Though I really wish people would stop calling it a miracle. There has to be a logical explanation. Kanos took his seat, his 4 arms folding in a complex pattern that probably had religious significance. We have reviewed the sensor data from your lifting of the blade. According to our calculations, you exerted approximately 2.3% of maximum human strength capacity. That doesn't sound right, Alex said. I mean, I wasn't straining or anything, but 2.3%? That would mean I could lift, he paused to do the math. Something like 85,000 pounds at maximum effort. That's ridiculous, is it? Asked another delegate, a squat, rocky being from the Geological Collective. Perhaps ridiculous by your standards, but not by ours. Our strongest individuals can lift perhaps 800 pounds. For you to lift 2,000 pounds with minimal effort suggests capabilities far beyond our understanding. Dr. Kim leaned forward. Alex, what's the heaviest thing you've ever lifted? Alex thought about it. I helped my buddy Dave move his piano last year. That thing had to weigh at least 400 pounds, and there were 3 of us. Oh, and I deadlifted 315 at the gym once. But I was pretty proud of that. The assembled aliens exchanged glances that somehow managed to convey amazement despite their widely varying facial structures. 1/5 of your pounds, Kano said slowly. And you consider this a personal achievement? Well, yeah, Alex replied. I mean, I'm not a power lifter or anything. That's decent for a regular guy, but nothing special. Human Alex, Oren interjected. You lifted a 2,000-pound blade with less effort than you described exerting for 315 pounds. Do you not see the significance? Alex was quiet for a moment, trying to process that. When he put it that way, it did seem strange. But there had to be an explanation. Maybe it's the gravity difference, Alex suggested. Earth standard gravity is different from here, right? The rocky delegate consulted a device on his wrist. Valdris prime gravity is 1.07 times Earth standard. The sword should actually feel slightly heavier to you, not lighter. Okay, then maybe it's something about the sword itself. Some kind of technology we don't understand. The blade has been extensively studied, Kano said. It is simple forged metal, albeit of extraordinary density. No technology, no anti-grav fields, no psychic enhancement. Its weight is purely physical. Alex was starting to feel cornered. Look, there has to be some explanation that doesn't involve me being some kind of prophesied superhuman. Maybe humans are just built differently. Maybe our muscle fibers work more efficiently, or our bone density is higher, or... We would very much like to test that hypothesis, said a new voice from the doorway. Alex turned to see a group of beings in white coats entering the room. Their leader was a tall, thin creature with multiple eyes and what looked like medical scanners built into her arms. Dr. Yenth, Oren said with a respectful bow, you received our message. Indeed, Dr. Yenth replied, her multiple eyes focusing on Alex with unsettling intensity. The Galactic Medical Consortium is extremely interested in studying human physiology. If this individual represents typical human capabilities, we must revise our understanding of biological limits. Alex felt like a bug under a microscope. I'm really not comfortable with being a test subject. Nothing invasive, Dr. Yenth assured him. Simple strength and endurance measurements. Perhaps a demonstration of other human capabilities, reaction time, cardiovascular efficiency, mental processing speed. Before Alex could object, his tablet chimed with an incoming message. He glanced at it and smiled for the first time all day. Oh good, my sister's calling me back. He looked up at the assembled aliens. Do you mind if I take this? Beth's a personal trainer back on Earth. Maybe she can help explain the strength thing. Without waiting for permission, Alex activated the video call. His sister's face appeared on the screen, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail and her workout clothes suggesting she'd just come from the gym. Hey, little brother, Beth said cheerfully. Got your message about lifting some heavy sword. What's all this about aliens thinking you're super strong? Alex turned the tablet so the camera could see the room full of various alien species. Beth, meet the galactic community. Everyone, this is my sister Beth. If Beth was surprised to suddenly be talking to a room full of aliens, she didn't show it. Cool. Hi, everyone. So Alex says you think lifting 2,000 pounds is impressive. Dr. Yenth leaned forward, her multiple eyes whirring as they focused. By our standards, it represents strength far beyond known biological limits. Beth laughed. Seriously? Eddie Hall deadlifted 1,202 pounds, and that was just the world record. Plenty of people lift 800 or 900. And that's just deadlifting. If we're talking total weight moved, strongmen flip cars that weigh way more than 2,000 pounds. The room erupted in excited chatter as the translation systems conveyed her words. Your species regularly lifts 800 to 900 pounds? Kanos asked in amazement. Well, not regularly, Beth replied. You have to train for it, but it's not like superhuman or anything. Alex, you said it was a sword? How'd you lift it? What was your form like? I just picked it up. Alex said with a shrug. Good balance point, comfortable grip. Felt pretty normal. Beth rolled her eyes. Of course it felt normal. You've been helping me move gym equipment since you were 15. Remember when we relocated my deadlift platform? Those weight plates were 45 pounds each and you were carrying 4 at a time. Alex did some quick math. That's only 180 pounds per trip. Yeah, but you did it for 2 hours straight without getting tired, Beth pointed out. Most people would be exhausted after 20 minutes of that. Dr. Yenth was frantically taking notes. Sustained effort. Endurance beyond our measurements. This explains much. What's the longest you've ever exercised without stopping? Beth asked Alex. Alex thought about it. Remember that hiking trip in Colorado? We did 14 miles with full packs. Took about 8 hours. With 40-pound packs, Beth added helpfully, up a mountain. And you weren't even winded at the end. The aliens were staring at Alex like he'd just announced he could fly. Even Dr. Kim looked shocked. Alex, she said slowly, most humans can't do that. That's actually pretty exceptional endurance. Really? Alex looked genuinely surprised. I thought everyone could do that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not like I'm an athlete or anything. 3 weeks later, Alex sat in what used to be a small diplomatic meeting room but had been hastily converted into his temporary office. The desk was covered with requests for meetings, formal invitations to state ceremonies, and proposals for everything from military alliances to marriage contracts from various alien nobility. This is insane, Alex said, reading through the latest batch of messages. The Corvan Empire wants to hire me as their Minister of War. The Scion Collective is offering to make me their spiritual leader. And apparently the Mechanoid Federation thinks I should replace their entire heavy lifting infrastructure. Dr. Kim, who had become his unofficial assistant in this chaos, looked up from her own tablet. It gets worse. The news feeds are calling you the chosen one of infinite strength. There's a betting pool on how much weight you can actually lift. And the current estimates are approaching planetary mass objects. That's ridiculous, Alex protested. I explained that I'm just a normal human. I even had them talk to Beth. Yes, and that made it worse, Dr. Kim pointed out. When your sister mentioned that she could probably lift the sword too, they started calculating the military implications of an entire species of superhumans. Half the galaxy wants to ally with Earth. And the other half is terrified we're going to invade them. Alex rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. How did this get so out of control? Because you keep doing things they consider impossible, Dr. Kim replied. Yesterday you carried a 300-pound crystal sculpture up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. You didn't even think about it. It wasn't that heavy, Alex said defensively. For you. But the strongest keeper would have needed anti-gravity assistance. She consulted her notes. Then there was the reaction time test where you caught that falling scanner. Before Dr. Yenth could even register it was falling. And don't get me started on the endurance trial where you jogged for 6 hours straight, just to prove humans don't get tired easily. Alex slumped in his chair. I was trying to show them I'm normal. How was I supposed to know that stuff was impressive? Before Dr. Kim could answer, the door chimed. High Keeper Orin entered, followed by an official-looking delegation Alex didn't recognize. Their leader was a tall, blue-skinned humanoid wearing what appeared to be formal governmental robes. Human Alex, Orun announced. May I present Ambassador Theron of the Galactic Senate. He brings an official proposal from the Governing Council. Ambassador Theron stepped forward and bowed formally. Human Alex, the Senate has voted unanimously to offer your species full membership in the galactic community, with immediate voting rights and preferential trade status. Alex blinked. That's fast. Don't these things usually take years of negotiation? Under normal circumstances, yes, Theron replied. But your demonstration of human capabilities has accelerated the process considerably. We believe it would be unwise to delay formal relations with a species of your evident potential. You mean you're scared of us? Alex said flatly. Theron had the grace to look embarrassed. Not scared precisely, cautious. The strength differential between humans and other species is far greater than we initially understood. It would be better to have humanity as an ally than as an unknown quantity. Dr. Kim leaned forward. What exactly are you offering? Full representation in the Senate, immediate access to galactic trade networks, technology sharing agreements, and Theron paused. A request that humans consider serving as peacekeepers for disputed regions, where our current forces have proven insufficient. You want us to be galactic police? Alex said. Your reputation for strength precedes you, Theron admitted. The mere knowledge that human peacekeepers might be deployed has already resolved 3 border disputes. Apparently no one wishes to test themselves against beings who can lift world render. Alex looked around the room at the expectant faces. What if I told you that most humans can't lift that sword? What if I'm actually stronger than average for my species? Are you? Oren asked. Alex thought about it honestly. I don't know, maybe. I mean, I work out a little, I stay in shape. I'm probably stronger than someone who sits at a desk all day, but weaker than someone who does physical labor for a living. So there are humans stronger than you? Dr. Yenth asked, her multiple eyes focusing intently. Oh, definitely. You should see some of the guys at my gym. And professional athletes. They'd make me look like a weakling. The room fell silent as the aliens processed this information. Alex could almost see them recalculating their understanding of human capabilities. How much stronger? Theron asked carefully. Alex shrugged. Professional powerlifters might be twice as strong as me. Maybe more. And that's just raw strength. You get into specialized athletes like gymnasts or martial artists, and they can do things I can't even attempt. Ambassador Theron excused himself to make some urgent communications. Through the crystal walls, Alex could see him having what appeared to be a very animated conversation with someone on his communicator. I think you just scared them more, Dr. Kim observed. I'm trying to be honest, Alex replied. They asked what I could do, so I told them. It's not my fault they think normal human abilities are supernatural. His tablet chimed with another video call. This time it was his friend Dave from back home. Alex. Dave's voice boomed through the room. Dude, you're famous. They're showing footage of you on the news here. Something about you lifting some kind of alien artifact? It's complicated, Alex said. Dave, remember when we moved your piano? Yeah, that was a pain. Good thing we had 3 guys, that thing was heavy. How heavy do you think it was? Dave thought about it. Maybe 400 pounds? 450? Why? Alex turned the tablet so Dave could see the room full of aliens. Dave, meet some representatives of the galactic community. They think humans are impossibly strong because I lifted something that weighed 2,000 pounds. Dave laughed. 2,000 pounds? Bro, remember my buddy Mike from the gym? He pulled a truck in that strongman competition last summer. Trucks weigh way more than 2,000 pounds. The aliens began chattering excitedly among themselves again. Alex caught fragments about mechanized warfare and vehicle manipulation and revised threat assessments. Dave, Alex said quickly. Maybe don't mention the truck thing. Too late, Dr. Kim said, watching the alien reactions. I think you just convinced them that humans can lift vehicles as a casual feat of strength. Ambassador Theron returned, looking somewhat pale despite his blue skin. Human Alex, I've been instructed to fast-track the membership proposal. The Senate would very much like to formalize relations with your species as soon as possible. Because you're afraid of us, Alex said again. Because we're impressed by you, Theron corrected diplomatically. Your species clearly has much to offer the galactic community. Alex looked around the room one more time, at the crystal beings who thought he was a prophesied chosen one, at the political representatives who wanted to make him a peacekeeper, at the scientists who wanted to study him like a laboratory specimen, all because he'd picked up a heavy sword without thinking about it. Okay, he said finally, I'll take the ambassador position, but I have some conditions. Name them, Theron said immediately. First, you guys need to understand that I'm not special by human standards. I'm just a regular guy who happens to be reasonably fit. Second, if you want to really understand human capabilities, you need to talk to actual experts. Athletes, trainers, physiologists. Not me. Agreed, Theron said. And third, Alex continued, when other humans start showing up for these diplomatic missions, try not to freak out when they do normal human things like jogging for a few hours or carrying heavy boxes. We will endeavor to adjust our expectations, Theron promised. After the delegates left, Alex sat alone with Dr. Kim and the sword that had started all this chaos. Worldrender leaned against the wall, looking like nothing more than an oversized piece of metalwork. So, Dr. Kim said, how does it feel to accidentally become humanity's first galactic ambassador? Alex picked up the sword again, testing its weight one more time. It still felt completely normal to him. Honestly, he said, I just hope Beth doesn't decide to visit. If they think I'm impressive, wait until they meet someone who actually knows what she's doing. Outside the crystal walls, ships from across the galaxy continued to arrive, bringing representatives who wanted to meet the human who had lifted the impossible weight. None of them knew they were about to discover that Alex Reed, the man they considered a chosen one of supernatural strength, was probably somewhere in the middle of the pack by human standards. The galaxy was about to get a very rude awakening about what humans considered normal.